Welcome back.
Part 2.
Yeah, 2 parts. Something somewhat urgent came up, so just had to reply. But where were we?
We were at the caravan. We were talking about the spice trader that
The
died.
space trader, and we're at the wasteland part, right?
Yes, the dunes.
Okay, so in the dunes. So basically, it's a very long section. Not a lot of important things happen until the very end. If that's right?
It was more like 3/4 of the way in.
Three-fourths. So about 3/4 of the way in, someone starts shooting at them with arrows, and they're using Nom tactics. Feces. And so one guy gets hit, and like 3 cattle.
Mm-hmm. No, oxen.
Oxen. All the oxen survive. The man's horse also got hit. The horse dies. And I think the man survives, but he gets really ill for a while.
The man survives the initial blow, but dies at the end of the disease the feces caused. It caused an infection strong enough to kill him.
Because he died a little after the whole bandit.
Because remember, at his death, he's distributing his ale, and he gives 2 bottles, which are like this big,
To Black.
To Black, and 1 to Arlen.
Yeah.
In which Arlen drinks before the fight of Lord Enzel.
Yeah.
To numb the pain.
So, yeah, he dies. Basically, there was a couple of those traps before they get out of the wasteland, the dunes. And then the whole raider party kind of comes on them using, this giant net, keeping them, from going forward. So, after they sprung that trap, the bandits gave them an offer. Give us, I think it was 50%?
They won 50% of everything they had.
50% of everything they had. I don't think it was money, it was just the goods.
Yeah.
And we will let you through. Arlen was not letting that slide because the only reason he did not want to let that slide is I have swords. And I would be giving half of these swords to bandits.
He didn't even care about any of the other people's stuff. He was like, dude, I just bought these swords. You're not taking my swords.
Yeah, basically. And he also was like, that's kind of messed up because they just use them to steal more.
Yeah.
And so a big battle ensues. Black gets a slash from here. It was a really bad slash.
Mm-hmm.
Arlen didn't think Black would make it. Black went white.
This extremely pissed Arlen off.
And then a raider kind of came down to one of the things, getting ready to break one of the wheels, and then just instinctively Arlen just his first time killing a man, and he's like, I just killed a man, but I don't really feel bad.
The thing about the Dragonborn, or the Heart of the Dragon, that it didn't really go into before, but it goes into heavy now, is that it removes your
remorse.
Not remorse. It removes the resent of death. You no longer fear death, nor do you fear the death of others. Which is weird, but it makes sense. It ties into the fact that it's dragons. Dragons live basically forever, so they can't...
Millions of years.
So it sets your mind to a primitive state. Not mentally, not intelligently, but your emotion-wise, it sets you into more of a primitive state.
Yeah, so... Yeah, you still, will feel anger, if someone's trying to kill your, loved ones, you're still going to be angry and stuff.
Right, you have anger,
you're still going to be, really sad.
You have anger, love, loyalty, sadness, but you don't feel remorse and
you don't have you lose a lot of more complex.
Basically, disgust just goes out the window.
Yeah, just completely. So yeah, that happens. White pretty much barely survives, almost through blood loss. The only reason, he nearly died is because he refused to rest. He took lead of the caravan, told the caravan leaders, you guys are dumb. I'm leading.
I told you we needed 10 mercenaries.
Different caravan, but yeah. So yeah, he pretty much takes control. And then they continue on. Eventually, they split up because none of the leaders really wanted to go into the land of magic, especially with the amount of men they had now, because, they lost a lot of guys. They all got killed.
Yeah, Arlen just made it because he didn't care. I don't know if you remember this because a very small subsection, but at the time where he's thrusting his sword to this one guy that was trying to chop off the wheel, someone hit him in the back with the axe, and he was just fine. It tore his clothes, but he was just like, yeah, cool, axe, nice. I'm pretty sure it shattered the immediate steel that hit him.
No, I don't think I don't remember that happening because they still can take damage. It's just they have an insane regeneration factor.
No, what happened was where the guy had hit him, he hit on the satchel with the amethyst.
Oh,
Remember, because it
that
shatters
might have
amethyst
happened.
into smaller pieces.
Yeah.
But where it hit his back, it wasn't enough force where it slowed down from hitting the rocks. It didn't go through because he still has a lot tougher skin compared to most people. His skin is basically like the leather of an oxen.
Yeah. So yeah, that happens, and they all split up. And Roland's like, "I came here to sell my swords. I'm going to sell my swords. That's all I came here to do. I'm dirt broke. I invested everything into this. Like he like I said, he put it all in green. So and then he just solo adventures up this the mount. I think it's the Mountain of Dreams.
I believe so, yeah.
The Mountain of Dreams, which there's a reason why the trade was cut off, because all the people who would lead people to and from the land of magic kind of just disappeared one day. They went back to their homeland. And without those, everyone who's tried to go up there kind of just goes either dies, goes insane and dies, or makes it back insane without ever going to the land of magic. Arlen's like, I know this happens. I'm still gonna go. I put it all on green. Let's ride. And so he, at this point, he bought another oxen just because he knew it was dangerous. So he's going. These magical creatures were coming through and by in the night. And then once, he heard commotion, he goes out. It's like this, beast. Nothing like he's ever seen. And he plunges his sword into it and he just disappears. Just gone. Air. And he's like,
Smoke demon.
yes. He's like, that was really weird. And then he goes back to bed. So then he continues on one night. One of his cattle, I keep on saying cattle, oxen, gets killed by one of these things before he could get out. But luckily, it was one of the ones that got shot earlier, so not much value lost there. And then he makes it to the land of magic. He's just kind of there. No one, speaks his language. He doesn't speak theirs. They're all looking at him. He's looking at them. And he takes his oxen to a water trot. And just sits there and just kind of starts speaking, saying, do you have a translator? Do you have a translator? Which no one understood him. Eventually, somehow, the translator came out. And he's talking to them. He's like, hey, I'm here to deliver this to this man, to the family of this man named Hathrin. It's Hathrin, right? Hathrin. He's like, we do trade. Our family does trade here. He's like, I'm not trying to trade yet. He's like, but you're here for trade. He's like, that's on the side, but I'm here to deliver these. And it's a whole ordeal. And he's like, he goes in, sees if the name is his house, if Hathrin's of his house. He finds out he's not. But he finds out which house it was. What house was it?
It was the big house by the church.
It's another house. The house starts with an H. I don't remember the name of it.
The house of, I want to say, Halb. Was it Halb? No, Halb was the neighbor.
Halbeer. And the one of the dude who was trying to get him to sell it to him was S or something. Sliver or something.
I don't remember.
Slave. So they go. I remember that. They go down there, and more translators. They eventually gets into the house of so basically a house is just a family of families. Just clarification. They go in and they still need a translator, but the translator from the old village wasn't allowed in there because it's a different house. Pretty much politics. It's like parties in a way for their. It's like the Republican, Democrat.
It would be more like an aristocracy party.
Yeah, more like that. But he eventually gets in. They get him a new translator of that house, and they take him to. Was it Hathrin's sister or mother?
Sister.
The mother's later, right?
Yeah.
So the sister, and they're just basically talking through the translator, of course. And he's telling her how he's here to give what is left of Halloran to the family, what he left to Arlen to the family, because he felt that was right. And so she asked, how'd he die? And Arlen goes through a whole emotional thing describing how he got caught by bandits and enslaved, and that's when he met him. When Arlen was enslaved, he met him in the mines, and I think was it a year after Arlen went there? Halloran died. After 2 years of Arlen being there, Halloran got a very bad fever and he didn't make it. But Arlen tried his best to nurse him through it, and he eased his pain, and that moved the sister. So the sister brought him, had the translator bring him to the head of the family, because wasn't his sister also ill?
Yeah.
So he's talking to Halloran's mother, and and then he shows her the amethyst, and she's just flabbergasted. She's like, "This is the most valuable resource of this land,
and you got a lot of it.
You got a lot of it, and you're just giving it to us?" And she basically explains it to him. That's the only reason he was able to make it up the mountain. It basically wards off evil spirits and magic, any like magic with ill intent. I think it is specifically.
It's just.
Is it magic? It's either magic in general.
I think it's magic in general. I think it's more potent against ill magic. It's any magic directed at the amethyst.
Okay. And she basically tells him it would have been a lot more effective if you wore it around your neck. But yeah, so she lets him keep enough for like a necklace.
It was enough for a necklace, one for trade, and one in case the necklace snaps.
Yeah. Gave him that.
Out of like 60 pieces, he kept 3.
Basically, which is still very valuable.
Yeah. Basically, those 3 that he had could have bought him enough land to make him
a lord.
Put him on the aristocracy.
Yeah. And then he explains the other reason why he's there, which is trade. And she's like, "You have silver?" It's illegal in the city back there. I mean, it's perfectly legal here. I'm not gonna ask which way you came through.
But in case you came from that way, you committed a lot of felonies.
Yeah. Punishable by death, I believe. But
punishable by torture until death.
Something like
very specific. That it was very specific to be torture until death.
Yeah, they're very brutal down there. So he pretty much becomes the Jeff Bezos of this world. Maybe not the richest, but extremely rich.
I think we're more like Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, more like that. But extremely rich from just selling this. And then like he even uses some of the money to buy some of the magics from there. Which, very smart investment. Let it ride.
Saves his life. Twice.
It does save his life twice. So yeah, he sells there. He becomes probably, like, the only way to explain it, a billionaire, maybe even more.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not quantified to enough like to say trillionaire. I wouldn't say.
It's hard to give you a direct evaluation of how much money it was, because obviously there's no like USD comparison, but
and it also doesn't tell you exactly how much he gets.
But it was a lot. It was a lot of stuff. Broke it about a couple yachts, you know.
Yeah, either high multi-million or multi-billion.
I would say multi-billion.
Probably multi-billion. And so he meets other sorcerers, and he buys their magics, and from the house that he was visiting, the Halloran's, they needed to send a new ambassador because the Sliv house, or whatever it's called, kind of took over for the Land of Magic as an ambassador since Halloran died, which the house thinks it was a whole kind of like a coup in a way to overthrow their power.
It was a coup.
Or it was a coup.
It was a coup.
Yeah, it was, because he was elected by the whole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he was elected by their congregation.
Yeah, it was a coup. They killed him, or they tried to.
Tried and failed.
still, like, successfully failed successfully.
Yeah, I mean, it still caused a lot of issues.
But so yeah, that happened. So they brought new ambassadors, and he comes back to the land of man. What's the main? We should have said this earlier. What's the main city's?
I said it. It was Prismale.
No, it's not Prismo. The main city isn't Prismo.
Oh yeah, the main city, the Land of Magic.
Land of Man.
Oh yeah, Land of Man, Prismale.
I know it's not. I know it's not Prismo.
Oh, Greenworth.
No, it's not Greenworth. Manfort.
Yeah.
Manfort. So they head back to Manfort, and he sends Black to go buy a property. He's like the realtor's like, we got all these great options for a lord. He's like, what's your most expensive one? She's like, I mean, I got this really expensive one, but I don't think you could buy it.
He took that as a challenge.
Very much so. It basically was the old palace of the old Duke of Manfort, which the Duke is basically just the highest. There's no king or anything. There's just a Duke.
Well, that's why I said it's an aristocracy.
Yeah.
Because there can be several dukes, but they're all basically kings.
Yeah, which there's really only one, which is weird.
Well, there's two.
There's two?
There's two. There's one mentioned. There's one you see in the book, and then there's a bunch more in society.
Okay, so books I haven't read yet. I only read the first book again. So basically, they go back there. They buy the old palace of the old Duke. Yeah. Showing wealth. That's exactly why they did it. They just wanted to cause a ruckus. And so basically, they wanted to spread the name of Lord Obsidian. So to make it easier for him to find the people who killed or who kidnapped him,
and killed Rose,
and killed the brothel slaves. He'll say it much more.
Horse.
Yeah. So he basically tries to go out on a killing spree. Not like he.
He doesn't try. He does.
He does.
He kills a lot of people.
He does.
Basically what he would do is he would go find someone through his wealth and be like,
I challenge you to a battle.
What do you know about Lord Enzel? And then be like, oh, I know him. How much do you know him? Me and him are friends. Okay, you want a duel? No. Sucks. Draw your sword. Boom.
Yeah, so basically, just going a bit into the future, everyone that was part of the brothel, except for one, which the one that is the one he found first, and also the one that he stole from, are also Dragonborn. Foreshadowing. So, just skipping a lot. He has a house party. Uses a bunch of magic to impress. The Duke was there. Like the Duke. Like that is an enormous deal.
Really big reputation points.
Yes, very big.
A lot of brownie points.
Yes, he also just did this to see if he could find any of the people or anyone who is related to them, yada, yada, yada. So, I mean, he does find Douge or whatever his name is. He sets up a date. Douge. Sets up a date to talk finances.
With his sword.
Finances. And so I'll skip. Before skipping to that, a lady comes to his house with this obsidian trinket. It was his mother's trinket. So he's like, "Hey, that's not yours. That's mine by right. Take me to your husband. I'll pay you for it."
She was like, money.
She resisted at first, but she's like, I'll find him either way by having my men follow you. Do you want my men to follow you, or do you want money?
It was like either A, I pay you and we do this, or B, my men follow you, kill your husband, and we do it anyway. So which one is really in your favor?
So she gets the money, takes him to him, and it is one of the men who ransacked his village. Deathly ill. On the verge of dying. Oh, by the way, he's like in a shack. Just a shack with a bunch of different families. Also in Manfort, by the way, poor people get enslaved.
Just because you're poor.
Just because you're poor.
Yeah, I mean, And you can't like get out of being poor. I mean, once again, back to medieval Europe. If you're poor, that sucks. If you're a serf, that sucks. You're a slave. Oh, good. Well,
Yeah.
basically, you're poor. Hey, you're a slave. I have money. How much? $20. You're a slave.
Yeah, so unless you had family that'd be willing to pay your ransom, you're Dundozo.
Fun in the mind.
Unless you're Arlen.
Well, he looked like a lord, and he bought a palace.
Yes, yeah, but like, he was a slave, he made it out. He looked like a lord because he got freshened up, spiffied up.
Yeah, he got out. He's like the only one who ever escaped
In
out.
their history. Very unheard of. But back to the point. It's one of the men. I don't remember which one. They had like hide, tooth, dagger. Like those were the types of names. These just. By the way, in this book, like you'll use false names because back in the day, people would want to hide their names because there's people who would worship dragons and they'll come after you. And the dragons would come after you too.
Yeah, Dragonborns would look pretty down upon.
Yeah, but which not all, because some try to kill the dragons.
Yeah.
The original Dragon Society.
Book 2. Maybe a part 2 if we do this again.
Yeah. Part 1, book 2, because this is part 2.
Yes.
But
Part 3.
yeah, but yeah, so he basically finds him. He's like debating killing him, but like he feels bad because he suffered enough because he's just there, not even. It's hard to say even living.
I would also like to make a specific point, which I found entertaining. The man who he was one of the captors on his deathbed is apologizing to Arlen, and Arlen thought that his emotions were gone because of the way the Dragonborn works, but he felt both remorse, sadness, and respect for this guy who was now dying. And this is what makes Arlen so special, is that because of his circumstances, he was one of, if not the only Dragonborn who retained his humanity. Which is what makes him so special, is that he has his humanity despite being a Dragonborn, which makes him very different. Also, pause.
There will be a part 3 in a second.